What's good, family? It's another Thursday, first weekend of April. College baseball week 8, man, it's starting to heat up, and I got my guy John Bowman here with me as I always do. It's been a few weeks since me and the kid have had an opportunity to do our little podcast here. I was in Nashville, scheduling conflicts last week, so I had to do an abbreviated show, but we're back in full force here this weekend. So glad to be back with you, my friend. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Had a few snags come up the past couple weeks, but it's good to be back on.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. I definitely feel like there's some stuff that was maybe going our way earlier in the year and kind of getting it turned on a dime. But listen, we're basically halfway through the season, so I think we're going to be in for a good one. There's a ton of great matchups here that we have, and we're going to get into them. But first, as we do every week, who's your biggest underdog, most likely to win outright?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have too many options right now. We don't totally know the numbers, but I guess with the ones that are out, I don't think Texas A&M's winning. I don't mind Irvine at plus 110. I could see Wake beating Florida State too. I don't love that one, but I think it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I do as well. We're going to get into these series in just a moment here, but unfortunately the lines right now aren't exactly carte blanche, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's hard, and there's not really that many big numbers. I mean, Texas A&M, if you dare, but there's some interesting ones that I would prefer to look at when the lines do come out. But yeah, I probably echo the same sort of sentiment there. But maybe Western Kentucky, if the line's offered, Western Kentucky against Dallas Baptist. At Dallas Baptist might be an interesting play on Friday. DBU's got a pretty solid starting rotation with Micah Bucknam going Thursday, James Ellwanger, their best starter, going Saturdays, and Ryan Schweed going Sundays. DBU in recent years stands for Dallas Bombers University, but this year it stands for Dog Shit Bullpen University because their pen is garbage. Western Kentucky is a very interesting team. So, I mean, I'll say this. If we get like Western Kentucky plus 210 or something like that for tomorrow, might take a stab at it.
Yeah, if we're looking at numbers like that, I definitely agree. I wouldn't be surprised if Western Kentucky wins that series at all.
No, not at all. Their football team was always scrappy, and I guess it's translated over to the baseball diamond. All right, John, we got the first game, first series. It's a little bit of a switch up here. Wake Forest at Florida State. Wake is not going with Logan Lunsford. They're going with Luke Schmock. He's doesn't even have 10 innings on the year. He's not a legitimate full-time starter, at least to this point. I don't know, man. I mean, do you think they have a shot coming off the getting swept at home against Virginia Tech with Jamie Arnold on the mound, has looked a little bit shaky these last couple starts? Where do you lay this line? Who do you think's got the shot here to win game one in the series?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to bet on this game, I would go Wake Forest, but this definitely wouldn't be one of my favorites. Lunsford out, it seems to be sending some sort of message because he had been good to start the season, but his past couple outings, he'd been awful. Just giving up tons of free bases and just putting Wake in a massive hole early. And then, like you mentioned, Jamie Arnold's looking more human. So, if I had to play this game, I would go Wake Forest, but I do think they could win one of these three games. Knowing the ACC, they could randomly come out and win this series, but I'm probably staying away from the series because of that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for me, Jamie Arnold is almost an auto bet every single time. I took him last week, and can you imagine, he had a bad start at Notre Dame last week, and I was counting on Florida State to get me the win. I had them in I had them as a 2-unit play last week because what's been happening, and I find it so interesting, but it's advantageous at the same time. Bet365 a lot of times will come out with lines before anybody else, including DraftKings. And their lines are so favorable, but a lot of times they're way out of whack in our favor. And as soon as DraftKings comes out, like everybody else, their assessment changes the entire sportsbook landscape. So last week, Florida State was minus 165 at Notre Dame. Jamie Arnold doesn't make sense. And then DraftKings opened it at Florida State minus 600. And then within 10 minutes, Florida State was minus 600 on Bet365. But I'm like, there was probably like that 10-minute window from FSU being like 165, 180 on Bet365 to 600 plus on DK. So I grabbed the second unit on 365. This is not only incredible closing line value, but flat out wrong. And it still didn't matter. And Arnold didn't look good. And the bullpen was atrocious. So it was brutal. But in any case, I think Florida State, though, even with Arnold, it's a little bit too big to be laying 2 bills on. Wake Forest to me was a team I had outside the top 5 of the ACC coming into the year, John. And they picked up a lot of like rejects from other schools. Granted, like they're solid, but they don't have the guy. There's no Chase Burns this year. There's no Rhett Lauder. There's no Josh Hartle, no Sean Sullivan. They don't have any of those guys. They have talent. I mean, you have a guy like Blake Morningstar, Duncan Marston. There's guys that could be those aces in the future. But Logan Lunsford was a Friday night guy here or there. Mizzou, it sounds like, oh, yeah, he's a Friday night SEC starter. But Mizzou, realistically, is probably better off being relegated to, like, the Sun Belt. You get Matthew Dowles, who really didn't do much at Tennessee. You get Griffin Green, who once upon a time was decent for Virginia Tech like 3 years ago. So the fact is they've been reeling, but they just got swept at home by VTech, John. So part of me is like maybe they come out to play hungry. This is a huge series in deciding, potential seedings and such. So I can't lay it with Florida State. But I think when the rest of the board comes out, minus 200 is something I might throw in on a parlay just because it's our fair boy, Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, I think I'm just staying away from this game. I don't like either number.
That's fair. If you like Texas A&M, Tennessee, can I interest you in Ryan Prager at plus 240 at Liam Doyle and the Volunteers?
No chance. I will say I'm going to have Tennessee in a parlay piece the entire weekend. If they lose game 1, they're not losing game 2 and 3. If they lose game 2, they're not losing game 3. So they're going to be an anchor piece for a parlay for sure.
I got to talk about A&M here because I was in Nashville a couple weeks ago for Vanderbilt A&M. It was fun, but dude, A&M couldn't hit. I saw a lava bomb in person, which was nice. You go right off the bat. I know. I was like, oh shit, that thing is an absolute rocket. He hit it onto. He hit it out of the stadium. It went onto the. What the fuck? I don't know what the street name is called. I'm drawing a blank here, but here's the thing. Last week, they needed that series against Kentucky. At home, you get down early, 6 runs. Prager was terrible. They come back and they win. I'm like, okay, maybe this is the spark. We finally get Texas A&M going. And then Saturday, they fell apart. Sunday, they also fell apart. And it seems like whenever their pitching is great, their hitting sucks and vice versa. And they can't put it together. And now you are in a position where you're 1-8 in SEC play and you have to go to Tennessee. Like, this is not only the worst time to try and get right, but this is the last team you want to face. So in normal circumstances, like A&M's not 240, obviously. This is the College World Series rematch from last year. And I know a lot of us are going to be like, well, we got to take A&M plus 240. It's just too big. Ryan Prager. It's going to be a close game, maybe. Maybe it's a close game, but A&M does something to ruin it at the end. So I think what I'm probably going to do when the totals run lines come out, I might for shits and gigs take some alt run lines. I might take like Tennessee -5.5, -6.5. See if they just beat them to death this weekend.
Yeah, just as long as the mercy rule doesn't come into effect. I was worried about that today with the TCU line. Played them on the run line and thought that was going to get mercy ruled, but it's weird rooting for the opposite team for there not to be a mercy rule.
DK's been pretty good about the voids, though. There's not been like these mercy. Like I haven't seen one void of a mercy because of a mercy rule, which is it's nice.
Yeah. I have until yesterday. We played the Pittsburgh, West Virginia under, and that was 11-1 in the 8th, and then got mercy ruled, and we ended up voiding, which sucks. But and I know if we had the over too, it would be a loss. But what can you do?
It's interesting. I haven't come across it from my perspective yet, but in any case, I find it very appealing way to maybe get involved in that. All right, let's go to the Iron Bowl showdown, Alabama, Auburn. It's a very good pitching matchup with Zane Adams going for the Tide, Sammy Dutton going for the Tigers. Where are you going?
Got to go Auburn at home. I think this is your classic. The home team is going to make the difference series. I mean, in these rivalry series, it doesn't, it's a little more of a toss up. Being at home doesn't necessarily matter, but these are both good teams. Auburn hasn't been playing as well their past couple weekends, but I think this could honestly go either way. And when it could go either way, I've got to go with the home team at plus money.
So I was talking about this on the College Experience earlier tonight, and I think it's a coin flip series. I think Alabama's not as good as what they've shown. They haven't exactly – they've surprised me to the point where, like, they're getting a lot of this production from sources I didn't expect to be as good as they've been, if that makes sense. But I'll say this. I think Alabama's a little bit more well-rounded on all sides than Auburn is. I think Auburn takes game one. Like you said, it's Friday night, home team. Dutton has been pitching really well. He went down in Georgia, only allowed 4 runs last week at Georgia. An offense that's just been ripping is the hottest offense in the country. And, I mean, he made 2 mistakes, and he put his team in position to win that game. I mean, Auburn's definitely been struggling a little bit, but realistically, Auburn could have won that series at Georgia. They fell apart in game 3, the second game of the doubleheader, and they should have won the Friday game. They had bases loaded twice in the first 3 innings against Charlie Goldstein, and they stranded them. They stranded 12 runners in game 1. It's mind-blowing. So, I think Auburn's got, some stuff they have to work out. I think at home where they play a lot better with Dutton going, I like them as a plus money price, but I think Riley Quick in game 2 is going to be the series decider. I think that's a big advantage for Bama in game 2. So what I'm hoping for is, we take Auburn game 1, close game, and then the books come out on Saturday, and it's a little bit more of an even series. So that way we could take Bama at a more favorable price. But I think Bama probably steals the series. Georgia, Texas, what an SEC series here. Georgia is a -145 at Texas, 114. John, one of my preseason Golden Spikes darlings, Max Ballew's out for at least the regular season with a fractured thumb on the play. Made a great diving catch. If I'm not mistaken, that was the play, and he came up like holding his hand, but I thought maybe he got the wind knocked out of him. I'm heartbroken. It sucks. And he was going to be a big piece for Texas this year, and I still think he'll end up coming back, hopefully. But the Longhorns are not built on one player. 1 through 9 loaded. Pitching staff loaded. They're a home dog, even against Georgia. I can't do it, dude. It's just you got to be Texas. They've been playing really good baseball. I think Georgia is obviously great, but I think offensively they're masking this pitching. I think a lot of people might look and say, well, Georgia's pitching has been great these last couple weeks. No, they went and they played Florida, who's probably struggling more than A&M is. And then they kind of got lucky against Auburn last week. So I think Georgia's pitching, while it has talent, is not to the level of, hey, they've turned it around, they figured it out. I think Texas is going to send them a message this weekend. Plus, with the pitching advantage, bullpen, starting rotation, I like the Horns at a home dog plus money price, son.
Yeah, I mean, losing Bellew is definitely big for Texas. I feel like this is like the type of game where if I was like just blindly picking a team to win, I would probably go with Georgia. But minus 145 on the road in these SEC matchups, like that's just something that I'm staying away from. Once again, if I had to choose, I guess I would go Georgia, but I just don't like this juice on the road, and I don't totally trust Texas yet. They can win any series, especially at home, but I think right now Georgia's the better team, but we don't know how that will work out with them being on the road, and I definitely don't like this number.
How dare you not take Texas with me? I am absolutely appalled at your.
We can't just agree on everything.
No, but I don't know. I thought this was a very agreeable fact here.
I'm just staying away from this game. I'll root for you.
Interesting, because less than a month ago, both of these teams, and I grabbed a piece on Texas, and I'm upset at myself I didn't grab it on Georgia, but Georgia kind of just got hot out of nowhere, and then like in the span of one weekend they got cut in half. So that's the thing, especially in the futures market. It doesn't matter which sport. You get an opportunity on a team you think might have a path, and it's a completely wrong number, too big. You got to hit it, because Georgia was 42-1. Texas was 40-1 on FanDuel. And I grabbed a piece on Texas, and I wanted to wait on Georgia because I wanted to, get a little bit more validity in their pitching. Now they're both less than 15-1. So it's your lesson of the day. UC Irvine at Oregon State is a fantastic series. These two teams matched up in the regional last year. Irvine's a plus 110 dog at Oregon State, JB. What are you thinking here? You think the Ducks or do you think the Beavers are taking it back, or is Irvine going to surprise us?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like overall, like to start the season, Oregon State was probably the better team, but they haven't been playing like one of the best teams in the league for a few weekends now. Irvine, any team that they go up against, they look like they belong. At this number, I would probably go Irvine on the road at plus money. I think they win at least one game this series. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up winning this series, but I don't like that number for Oregon State, so I've got to go with Irvine.
And this is something that I've made note of. Honestly, since that weekend, like a month ago down in Frisco, where Oregon State beat Virginia that Friday, and then they lost to Minnesota and Oklahoma on the Saturday-Sunday game, Oregon State is a team that I like to try to fade on Fridays because they've been going with Nelson Keljo the whole year, and he's good. Don't get me wrong, but he was a reliever last year, and he slotted into the Friday role, and he's been fine, but he's not like one of these normal Friday night guys. He's not a legitimate ace. They got a kid who's going to be probably one of the top arms off the board in 27, and Dax Whitney as a Saturday guy who's a stud. Kid's a freak. But, I mean, Oregon State, to me, based on what I've seen, they are a team that is very reliant on about 5 to 7 players. I would say probably more like 6 players. The first 4 in their lineup, a couple pitchers, really. If those guys don't carry the load, then it's going to be a tough day for them. Whereas Irvine's the opposite. They're all hands on deck. Everybody in Irvine is going to contribute something positive. The starting pitching for Irvine to start the year was the biggest question mark. It's like weird because their starting pitching was a disaster, but their bullpen was unreal, and they would piggyback guys in such an unreal fashion where like Ricky Ojeda will come out on a Friday night in relief and throw like 4 scoreless innings out of the pen. But now Irvine's kind of figured that out, and they've went to the well, and they are starting to throw Riley Kelly, who's got a sub-3 ERA this year, and he's been throwing the last few Fridays, and he's looked good. And now, like, this is not only a big series for Irvine schedule-wise, but it's also a litmus test. Like, this is something that could ultimately help them determine what their seeding looks like. Like, Irvine right now has a legitimate case to be a top 16 regional seed hosting. So, long story short, I think at least on Friday night, Irvine getting money is not correct. I think this should be more like a pick 'em. I think Oregon State is still talented, but Irvine they are tough, dude. They are a tough program. So give me the Anteaters as an official play.
Yeah, I think they have a lot more to prove than Oregon State does. They really want this series, and I think we'll see that play out.
On a side note here, while it's going on, I've been watching the LSU game. Like, Cade Anderson was great through 7. I'm like, all right, he's done. They sent him out for the 8th inning.
121 pitches.
Shut it down in the 8th. And I'm like, all right, he's done. They sent him back out there for the 9th. So Cade Anderson is in the 9th inning right now. 1-2 count, 123 pitches, nobody out. I think Jay Johnson wants to keep his guy hot and save the bullpen because, honestly, even though it's a lot of pitches, he's been relatively stress-free all night. He had the one high-stress inning. I think it was the first or second where he had bases loaded, 1 out, and got out of it clean. Cade Anderson is 2 outs away from a complete game shutty in Norman. So very, very impressive start here. By the way, we're talking about Bet365's wrong numbers. Start at LSU, Oklahoma total was 14.5 at that open today. And then as soon as DraftKings came out, it was 11.5, switched right up, and this thing settled at 10. I'm like, dude. I wanted to throw Oklahoma plus 2.5 in there. I really, really did. But I'm like, you know what? It's hard to hit 2 sides of the same game, so let me just stay with the under. But it looks like Oklahoma has a good chance to cover that 2.5, which is a lot at home with Witherspoon on the mound. All right, the last highlighted game that DraftKings has given us, Arizona State. ASU, my darling Big 12 team, has been ripping. They've won 3 straight series. They just swept Utah. They beat TCU. They put up a 40 bean on them. They beat Kansas Jayhawks outright. So Arizona State looks good, man. And they're home against their in-state rival, Wildcats. Minus 160. Should be Ben Jacobs versus Colin McKinney, who got roughed up against Baylor last weekend. Arizona lost the series to the Baylor Bears. Where do you see this one going?
Yeah, I feel like this is the type of – I mean, first of all, rivalry matchup. These are tough. And then these teams always play like 1 or 2 midweek games as well. And Arizona won the first one 3-2, I believe, at Arizona. So that's always something to think about. But I feel like if Arizona State was like minus 145 here, I would be jumping on Arizona State in a heartbeat. Arizona just lost that home series to Baylor, a series that they probably should not have lost. And Arizona State, like you said, they're playing well right now. The only thing is their bats can go quiet, but, against Utah, it seemed like every time they went down, they were able to come right back. So I would still go Arizona State at minus 160, but it might be a little too expensive for me to actually make it a play.
I'm officially on Arizona State. I put my money where my mouth is preseason. Giving out ASU at 8-1 to win this conference because I felt this is the year for Willie Bloomquist's squad. I mean, how long was it going to be where like they've had the talent, but they couldn't put it together? So now finally do. And, listen, if I still believe in that, which I do, this is the series you have to win because at the moment, Arizona is probably the biggest threat to Arizona State to win the conference. Kansas State has played really well, but I think their schedule has been favorable. And a lot of us expect them to regress to the mean. Oklahoma State is in real trouble. It is very unlikely that they're going to win. Otherwise, you have maybe like a Kansas. You have a lot of these teams jumbled up, like West Virginia. So, this is a very big series because Arizona State with a win here, as Cade Anderson for LSU throws a complete game shutty, 134 pitches. Nuts. That's unreal, man. But I think Arizona State needs this one. And you got Ben Jacobs on the mound. We know Arizona struggles against lefty pitchers. Big strikeout stuff for Jacobs. And the big news is Brendan Summerhill is going to be out this week. He's going to be out for the next couple weeks with an undisclosed injury. So losing your best player is big. But, dude, honestly, ASU's got the groove right now. Everything's working. Their pitching looks much better. Their bullpen has been a lot more reliable. Still not completely sold on it, but it's definitely taken big strides. Their offense has been humming. And the biggest part is they got Kian Vu back, their best player. Kian Vu's missed the last couple weeks. So give me ASU, man. I think this is definitely ASU Friday night, but I think the Devs are going to take the series.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would definitely go Arizona State here.
All right, so this wraps up the highlighted games with lines, but there's some other matchups that we can talk about. No lines, and I want to get your thoughts. Sorry, fuck was that? I want to get your thoughts on a couple of these here. We got Vanderbilt at Florida. J.D. Thompson, Liam Peterson back on the bump. Where would you make this line? But more importantly, who do you think gets this one done?
I mean, I don't think I can bet on Florida right now. Vanderbilt has always had their problems on the road. They're a totally different team. They just got swept by Arkansas, but I think Arkansas is the best team. I mean, you've got LSU, Tennessee, and Arkansas. I think they're all in the same stratosphere, and then there's a lot of teams behind them. But this one's tough. I think if Vanderbilt were plus money or anything, I would play it, but I don't think they're going to be plus money. So I might end up just staying off that one as well.
So Peterson's back on the hill. I'm a big J.D. Thompson guy. I'm curious at what the total would be. If the total is something along the lines of like 12, 11.5, I might take a piece on the under here. But I don't think I'd probably lay Vanderbilt more than 145 because you're still betting against Liam Peterson. I know Florida's been bad, but they still have a lot of talent, and they have a pretty good pitcher going. And Vanderbilt in its own right is a little bit hit or miss, especially on the offensive side. So I think Vanderbilt topping out at 145 is where I will go. And if it's 11.5 at lowest, then I would take the under. All right, Kansas State, Oklahoma State. The Cowboys are struggling, John. 1-6, got swept in Lawrence this weekend. They are searching for answers. Meanwhile, Kansas State, they're 8-1. A team that I had the first no bet list team I had was Kansas State, and because they cost me opening day. So they immediately turned it on, and now they're 8-1, 20-8 overall. You think OK State gets their groove back?
No, I think they're just a bad team. Like kind of like Texas A&M. It's like at some point you're, like how people look at you, your prestige is not worth it anymore. Both teams are 500. I just don't think Oklahoma State's a very good team. And I was with you when I first saw that Kansas State opening game, but I'm a big Kansas State believer now. They've got a very good lineup. They've got good enough pitching. It's not great, but it's good enough with those bats. They're going to score a ton of runs just about every game. So I really like Kansas State there. I'm probably going to be on them all weekend.
Maybe. I got to see what the lines are. Because, I don't know, man. At Kansas State, I thought they were going to hit a regression after last year. They were one of my dark horses, 100-1 tickets that I was interested in with, Kalen Culpepper leading the charge and Tyson Neighbors as a closer. I thought they were going to hit a regression. And I think their schedule has been generous. I think it's now or never for OK State. You're 1-6, so it's really bizarre because they've had to deal with some crazy weather in Stillwater. Their West Virginia opening series basically got canceled. They only ended up playing one game, and I don't think you make those games up. So it's obviously odd, but you're 1-6 in conference play. If you lose this series and you fall to 2-8, I don't know, man. You fall to 2-8. I don't think there's enough time to get back. So I would like to see what OK State's going with line-wise first, but I don't disagree with you to the sense that they just might be a bad team. That's why I didn't pick them to win the Big 12. I was like, I think there's holes in this roster. I think they're talented, but there's holes in this roster. So I can't make an actual pick until I see the line and obviously the pitching matchup, but I would slightly lean more with Kansas State as long as it's not egregious. All right. There is Georgia Tech Stanford at the Sunken Diamond. Joey Volchko has moved up to the Friday roll over Matt Scott against Tate McKee. Stanford is reeling right now. Got swept at UVA. Where do you feel this one going?
This will be interesting. I haven't been a big believer in Georgia Tech, but they can hit, and they seem like a good team at home. Stanford is very hit or miss. They started off the season really well. They have not been playing well lately. But it's really their pitching, and then their hitting. They get so far behind in the game that their hitting can't really catch up. I think my favorite play for that would be an over. Maybe switching up those starters is going to do something, but if not, those bats are definitely going to do something. And the back end of both bullpens aren't very good.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some big overs this weekend. I'm curious because, the one thing, so maybe this Joey Volchko move does give them a little bit of juice. But the consistency of Stanford hasn't really been there this year. Only player props, I wish. So I do think the overs are going to be plentiful this weekend. What I would say is one thing that I've been trying to keep my eye on is the cross-country travel. But I got to say, the cross-country travel hasn't really affected too much this year. It hasn't been that big of an impact. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't think the travel has created so much of a competitive imbalance that you get these teams that are complete no-shows traveling across the country on a Friday night. So I think the hotter team right now is Georgia Tech. I think Volchko has got a lot of talent. I think he can also be a little bit hit or miss. So I'd probably lean with Georgia Tech, but I don't think I'd be willing to lay much more than 150 with Tech. And I think if you can get a total in the 11.5 range, I think I might look towards an over there too. Okay, there is a couple more. Virginia, NC State. Is Virginia back?
I don't think so. I think that's just two bad teams facing off. I don't really like to bet on either team when it's just two bad teams, maybe overs, just because I don't think either pitching staff's very good. NC State has more starters, but both teams are not very good to me. I'm a big NC State hater. They never win midweek, and that's, kind of how you see the depth of a team. And I'm not a believer in Virginia right now.
Well, Virginia was really impressive over the weekend. Sweeping Stanford, looked very resilient. The offense was always going to be their big, their calling card. And it was struggling for most of the year. And finally, last week, they woke up. Their offense exploded. And NC State's got some more veteran pitchers. So possibly it's not going to be as dramatic as it was. But what I could see happening is UVA maybe get their swagger back. I think they needed that. They got swept at Duke home to Duke the week before, and then they returned the favor with a sweep against Stanford. I think after a momentum builder like that, they need to follow it up strong with a series win. Now Evan Blanco's moved into the Saturday role for this weekend. They're slowly but surely getting him back into his Friday night spot over the course of the year. Another one where I'd like to see the line, because if it's like Virginia -1, if it's Virginia minus like 150, 160 with Jay Wolfolk going, I don't know if I'd be rushing to bet that. But Saturday is probably where I'd be looking at. Hang on, sorry. There was one I want to talk to you about. Sorry, the lines are just not out. There it is. Texas State, Louisiana. Chase Morgan Friday night at home against T-State.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one I just think are two bad teams. UL is not hitting this year. They're a totally different team. They lost midweek to Louisiana Tech at home, got absolutely smoked. And that's usually the type of game that they win. Those home, midweek games, they win series, and they haven't really been winning series. Texas State, I don't think is a very good team either. It seems like whenever they get midweek games, they just throw their best guys to try to get those signature wins. But I don't think they're a very good team overall. So this is another one. I'm just staying far away from these teams. I think both are just bad teams.
I think it's a little bit challenging when we don't have lines to actually maneuver and kind of play. Well, if the line gets out to this, then they're good until this number, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of just trying to think about it on the fly. But I mean, any other games that you wanted to look at here?
I mean, like you said, it's pretty tough to look at games when you don't really have lines because, you bet the line, not necessarily the team. So it's pretty hard to talk about most games.
Yeah, that's true. But, John, it was a pleasure as always. I know it's a little bit shorter tonight. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Obviously, we're at the mercy of the sports books when they decide who and when they want to give us. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But best of luck to everybody this week for tuning in. John, you're a national gem. I thank you so much for your time, as always.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Also, don't forget to become a College Baseball VIP subscriber. Unlimited picks for the rest of the season. I know it's halfway gone, but there's still a lot of picks to go. I give out a ton throughout the year. Click on my Twitter, Dub Club link. You could pick the package that's best for you. Also, MLB, $125 for the year, unlimited, is also available. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Head to my Twitter and click on the Dub Club link to decide what is right for you. Everybody, we thank you again, and we'll see you again next week. Let's hit some winners.